With it being 7 o'clock and the quorum present, I call the Francis South School Board meeting to order. Mr. Deacon is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We want to entertain a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Second.
Ms. McAvoy, motion and second by Mr. Summer to approve the agenda as submitted. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, by roll call.
Ms. McAvoy.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Do you have any recognitions tonight? And we have no updated agreements tonight. Does the FHA like to make any comments tonight? Any of the employee groups? Want to skip over them? Let's see. Would I entertain a motion to approve the patron comment report as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
Cope, Summer? Motion by Ms. Cope, second by Mr. Summers. Is there any discussion? That was presented Mr. Brooks. And no discussion. By roll call?
Ms. Cope.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. We're going to entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Lang, second by Ms. Weiss to approve the consent agenda as submitted. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. By roll call?
Ms. Ferguson.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Purchase over 7,500. Is there a motion to approve purchase over 7,500 as submitted?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Ms. Cope, second by Ms. Weiss. I'm sorry, Ms. McAvoy, sorry. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, by roll call?
Mr. Lavada.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Item number 2, monthly financial report. Board can I have a motion to approve the monthly financial report as submitted?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Lang, second by Mr. Summer. Approve the monthly report as submitted. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. By roll call?
Mr. Lang.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 7-0. Item number 3, strategic planning, MSB Leadership Summit. Board, is there, who would like to go first?
I don't want to.
Okay. I don't think there's a suggested motion here.
No, this item's for discussion.
Okay. Mr. Lang will go first.
Okay. On June 13th and 14th, I attended the MSBA Leadership Summit at Tantura Resort at Lake of the Ozarks. I must say, good thing I was directions around that huge place. My day started with a quick presentation by the new DESE Commissioner, Margie Van Dieven, and her plans to get Missouri to one of the top 10 states by the year 2020. Then I attended several breakout sessions on a wide array of topics. One that I made certain I attended was titled Improving District Level Measurement and Monitoring. Our very own Dr. Sloan was a presenter for the session, and I must say, she represented Francis House School District great and did an outstanding job. I was very impressed with the amount of information and things to do and learn. Being a new board member, the amount of information and training by attending the various breakout sessions and having the ability to brainstorm with other school districts in the state will only help build me into a better school board member. Thank you.
Did Mr. Summer really give you good directions, or?
He did.
Okay. He wasn't trying to trick you or anything?
No, you do better.
Okay. Mr. Summers, would you like to go next?
Absolutely. Yeah, and just to kind of tag on what Mr. Lang talked about, this was the last opportunity for Dr. Carter Ward to talk to the MSBA members. He is retiring after over 40 years with MSBA as executive director. And Melissa Randall, as of July 1st, is the new executive director. She's been with MSBA for over 20 years, so you'll see a lot of the same things continue on. Also, this weekend, there was the John T. Belcher Scholarship Award winner announced. It was G. Louis Booth. I always mess up his name. Anyway, it was a student from Washington, just very close to us, that was the winner there. They also recognized all the board members that received additional advanced and master certifications, so that's always exciting. The governance team awards were presented, as was the outstanding board of education, and I have all that information. If anybody that wasn't here wants to see that, we'll pass that down. So, the other things that occurred this past month, I guess, is the new MSBA president was installed. Mona Coleman, who's from Bolivar School District, will be the president. Ray Feldman here locally from the Melville School District is the president-elect. Chris Lutledge from Willow Springs is the new vice president. Of course, Doug Whitehead from the Jefferson City School District is the past president. So, if you remember last time when we met in June, we talked about 2 additional platforms. Those were approved at the Delta Assembly, which had to deal with military bases and additional professional training for school board members. And then finally, with the Leadership Summit, I did hear a lot of great positive comments from the presentation that Dr. Sloan gave. She had the ideal spot first thing on Saturday morning. Can't do that. So, but the new commissioner, as Mr. Lang mentioned, also was there talking to school board members and talking about the vision she has for the journey to the top 10 by 20. The other presentations I attended to that I thought were important is to update us on 2015 legislative issues. And the other couple ones is there's House Bill 42. They ended an entire hour on that. It's useless now, but at least I knew why it was useless. So. And then the other one I attended was conflict and collaboration tips and tools for boards to navigate diverse perspectives. I thought that might be a good one to attend as a school member. Actually, Mr. Lang and I sat right next to each other. We made comments as we went through that on how that affected us. So that is pretty much what I had. I'd be glad to answer any questions that anybody has.
I actually sent Mr. Ward a letter about the budget that they have down at the MSBA, and I was shocked at the amount of money that the MSBA has on their payroll. I had no idea that it takes almost $2.6 million to run that organization. And that's pretty much on the back of taxpayers. I know they provide a service, but when you go to a lot of the breakout sessions, in the school district, a lot of the presenters are at their conference. A lot of the presenters are the very people that work in the various school districts. And, I was in shock when I saw the amount of money that's taken in. They get a little bit of money from the state, but most of it is from dues from basically the school districts and the taxpayers.
services they provide, whether it's superintendent searches. They have many attorneys on staff to help with policy, write policies in many school districts. We don't utilize that service. They do have a lot of other services that are provided throughout the school year. And I'm sure us as a board, we don't have the opportunity to maybe utilize a lot of that, but I know the administration and staff does with a lot of the things that they're involved in there. So it is a bit of an expenditure for many school districts, but well worth the time, I think, just from where I sit, from the professional development opportunities and stuff.
And I was just referring to the salaries.
Yeah.
I was taking all the other expenses, I was just looking at the salaries. Let's go.
So thank you for allowing me to add that to the agenda this week. I really appreciate it. I think the organization does an amazing job with only being on the board for not quite 2 years yet. I found the information that they provide invaluable. The resources that are available are amazing. So thank you for sharing that with me because I wanted to attend and wasn't able to, and look forward to the next opportunity. Thank you.
If I could, just one last thing, just real quick. Just so you know, there is a deadline if anybody as a school district or as an individual board member would want to present a legislative resolution. The deadline for presenting that to MSBA is Wednesday, July the 29th. Give a chance for the advocacy committee to take a look at that. And this will be then voted on as an MSB organization at the fall conference in October this year.
Yes.
Do all of you receive the MSBA publications that they send out? Like today, they sent one out about professional development opportunity for employment offer. So I just didn't know if you needed me to forward those to you or if you're getting those, because the one they came out with today, just want to make sure everybody got it, because they're asking if a quorum of the board and the superintendent want to attend, which was basically the breakout session that I did with Patty Polster. So just want to make sure that was out there. Or then I didn't need to send that forward to you.
Okay, moving on to the next item, and that would be strategic planning. And this is the item that we asked Mr. Sutton and the cabinet to provide the board some ideas in the event that the prop I did not pass. And there's various reductions. I'm assuming that you're gonna put a PowerPoint out there to talk about this, or no, PowerPoint. It's on board docs.
I just wanted to read them as well.
So, I guess the board's had a chance to review the various scenarios, 2, 3, 4% reductions, and assuming there's no new revenue. I don't know how do you want to do this? You want to open this up for discussion? Do you guys want to present why you guys feel that these are the tiered deductions that you'd like to present, or?
No, I would just first like to make sure that everybody understands that this is a result of the retreat that we had on June 16th, when the board did ask for what would a 2%, 3%, and 4% reduction look like if the tax levy does not pass, and we need to make some reductions this year to begin to get finances back in order. So we have that. So I want to, just make sure that you understand the layout of that and what it all means with the different colors on there. And then what would happen in the school year 16-17 in order to balance the budget. And I do want to be upfront about this. While executive cabinet put this together, we spent quite a bit of time working on this and had many revisions and iterations to this. This has not been worked on collaboratively with any other employees. We had a short timeline, people were gone. And should we make the decision if the tax levy doesn't pass, and should we make the decision that we want to move forward with some reductions, we would certainly like to work with our personnel, our affected employee groups on having their input on how these things are going to affect learning and just the work that needs to be done. So just want to be clear about this. This hasn't been worked on collaboratively outside of this group. So I would ask Kevin to maybe just run through what does 15-16 look like, or the colors mean, just to make sure that everybody understands the documents, and then we can certainly answer
how I was going to start my comments.
Okay.
We began this work to take a look at meeting those targets, and so we have provided, we know in our minds that there are estimates behind each of these line items. Of course, we needed to know what that was. But because it was a relatively short time framework, and with some of the items we don't know exactly, particularly as it gets to personnel, the value of that line item is going to be dependent upon the exact personnel who would be impacted. So while we have a average calculation number that we're using in order to arrive at an estimate, it is probably not, in the final analysis, if this list was implemented in some form or fashion, it would be something different than that. And so we didn't want to provide hard dollar numbers because we didn't want anybody to take away that there was only going to be X amount of dollars for any particular line item. It could be more or less than what we used as an estimate here, simply because this was as Dr. Sloan indicated, not a entirely collaborative process with a larger group of individuals, including our building administration and our employee groups. So purposefully, the specific dollar amounts for each line item are taken off. But we do have estimates that we use to arrive at this. As Dr. Sloan said, the color shading is to give an indication of prioritization before it gets asked at a retreat. That in addition to coming up with dollar figures, that there would be some prioritization based on what you would do first, second, third, etc. And so again, within the various shaded areas, that isn't necessarily sequential, but we try to provide some means of prioritizing those. So things that were furthest away from the classroom were our first priority. And as we got closer and closer to the classroom, those became lower down on our priority list, and the colors become a little bit darker, indicating its impact on the instructional program. So I do believe that all of these have negative impacts on our instructional program. Of course, that happens at varying degrees. As I've had opportunities to talk about this, I have shared that I think this might be considered a framework for future discussion and not a roadmap. So this is one way to look at it based on the work that we've done. But I think there probably will be others. So as we look at that first list for fiscal year 16, as we work towards achieving that first tier of reductions, drug testing is a program that this board was very proactive in implementing a number of years ago, and I believe it served as an effective program within our school district, helping to address a problem that we know exists in the larger community. And we have seen an improvement in our results in terms of the survey that's done every year of our students. So we do think that the drug testing program is a component of that, along with other educational initiatives. But that's pretty far removed from direct instruction, and so that would be something that we would consider. Learning management system has been under discussion for some time. We would love to implement that. We think it's the next important tool for our teachers in order to really advance their instruction and to make items more available to our students in the media that they are most familiar working with. So we really think this is important as we move forward, but we haven't implemented yet, and it's something we could hold on doing. The board did approve tonight the Teacher Insight, which is a tool that we use to help screen our teacher candidates. But there's also a component of that which is the Principal Insight. We have a smaller number of principal openings relative to teacher openings in any given year, and we are fortunate enough, at least up to this point, to be able to attract, in the most part, for our principal positions, individuals who either have had some intern type training, either through our program or that at another school district, or have been sitting principals. So it would be possible, at least in the short term, to forego the use of that screening tool. We we have already cut back on travel, but this line item is just an indication that there would be further restrictions in that regard. And we have a program that provides a small amount of money each year to every school building to help support parent-community interaction with the schools. That would be something that we would no longer do. Of course, if we're cutting back on our professional development, we wouldn't need as many subs, so we would try to find a way to do our professional development.
Kevin, can I stop you there?
Absolutely.
Okay, so on that tier there, that's $3.6 million.
No. That's, I'm sorry, maybe I should have prefaced with that. We really have to do pretty much up to updating and implementing curriculum before we get to the 2%.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was just, okay, I see there's 5 colors here.
Right, but in this first year, the 2, 3, and 4%, the first 2% is stretched across a couple of the colors.
Okay.
Just because those are lower volume items in terms of their dollars.
All right, let me know when we get to 2% then. All right. Each tier. Go ahead. Sorry.
Not expanding our wireless, we have a new teacher training program, we use a program for our students that helps identify struggling readers. We would cut back even further on our textbook purchases. And then really, all of those items, we still aren't at our 2% yet. But if we were to reduce our transportation system, where we would only do what is mandated by the state, which is transporting kids who are 3.5 miles from home, that's a big number. As you can see, that would affect approximately 7,600 students who would no longer have transportation. And so when we get to reducing transportation, we've now reached tier 1. Does that make sense?
So tier 1 is 3.6 million.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Dr. Stone is correct. Really, up to the certified personnel reduction, 6 FTE, that is all tier 1.
Then.
Tier 2 is just 23 certified personnel reductions, and
Okay.
tier.
So where you have the cutoffs is where, okay.
So we would have to go all through the top, starting with drug testing, all the way down to 6 FTE certified personnel to get to 2%. And then the next 23 FTE would be 3%, and we had another 23, so now we're up to 52 certified FTE to get to 4%. So now, I think at the bottom of that table, then it gives you the number in dollars.
So when you're looking at certified staff for the 2015-16 year, that's this coming school year. So this is approximately 1 teacher per buildings. It breaks up at 23 buildings or.
If we went all the way to tier 3,
Maybe about 2
it would be
teachers.
over 2 per building.
And of course, it wouldn't be as clean as that. You know, it's sometimes easy to think about that, but our policy for reduction in force would still be in play. And so our least senior teachers would be the ones impacted, and they are not necessarily distributed evenly to per building. So it would be a series of domino movements that we need to take place as those least senior teachers are identified. And then, of course, we have to have teaching staff to cover. There would certainly be some reduction in sections, maybe at the elementary level, but it would necessarily, I think, involve quite a bit of dominoes as we would go through several iterations to get people appropriately placed in each school to provide instruction for our kids.
So, for example, we might have to, take an elementary school, for example, we might have to remove 3 teachers from a particular elementary school because they are the least senior, and then move 2 teachers from some other elementary school into 2 of those 3. think something similar would happen at the secondary level if we were to reduce a teacher who taught a 5th grade math class, let's say. We may not have another math class that particular period, so what we talked about with elementary would impact the teachers, would also impact the students. And at the secondary level, a scenario where you had a section reduced and there wasn't another section that particular hour, then we would have to reconfigure that student's schedule because they would have to have that math class and it occurs some other period. So it would be quite a bit of shifting if we reduced any sort of certified personnel at this juncture.
Ms. Coe?
So I would assume we also have to take into account heritage and union and maybe not be able to make reductions in some of our buildings based on needs of the students and population.
That could be, and that would be that whole piece that Dr. Sloan talked about. I think having a process to get input from others about what are the exact positions that would be necessary. So that would be quite a process and it'd be difficult to speculate as to where the reductions might specifically come from.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we weren't talking about a peanut butter spread either, that it's not one per building because some of our buildings can't handle that.
Absolutely, and our early childhoods would be part of the 23. I wouldn't anticipate we probably would make reductions there because that's a tuition pay program, so these cuts would come out of our other schools. And I think that we can go through the tier 1, through that kind of brownish area, if you will, through the 6 FTE, and be pretty much outside the classroom. But even when you get to the support personnel reductions of 20 FTE, while that's not touching kids, that means that there's work that's currently being done that's going to have to be, done elsewhere. And the 6 FTE would be outside the classroom. Most likely that's a reading support. And as you know, we just got reading untangled. So, and then when you get into 23, when you get to the next 2 lines, then you are inside the everyday classroom and we begin to make some of those impacts. And then we know students with IEPs, that we have to meet those requirements. So those classes, for the most part, will probably remain untouched, and we would have to get these reductions from our regular classrooms for the most part.
Adjustments can be made if we had to do it. I mean, I don't want anybody in this room to think that we couldn't make these adjustments if we needed to. I mean, yeah, it'd be an impact, but they could be made if we needed to do that. I'm concerned about the transition for transporting students, number one, and having 7,600 more cars show up in our parking lots and getting kids into the classroom in a timely manner. That will be a huge problem. It's not something that will help. I'm sure it'll get figured out in time, but there'll be a whole lot more traffic out there in our buildings, and some of our buildings right now have drop-offs that are, entirely long as it is. And I guarantee if you have to transport a bunch of kids to the Francis Howell middle, you'll have traffic out the gazoo on the road, Fallon Road. So that would be a huge problem for us, getting kids into the classroom on time. I know that all traffic will adjust at some point, but I don't like the liability of it either.
Well, anybody who was around when we had a bus strike, I don't know what year that was, we had bus strikes, and at least Steve and I were in the buildings at that time. You're exactly right. It is overwhelming, and eventually you do get a system in place. But we're trying to stay away from the classroom and make sure that we impact that environment as little as we can. You think about, and that's how we kind of constructed this list, starting outside before we got to the classroom, and transportation is a service that we provide to our families. We live less than 3.5 miles away right now, and if we don't have the money to do it, then that's a service we wouldn't be able to provide, but certainly would be very upsetting to families. made, and again, that may be not something that the board chooses to do, but, that was our first attempt at this.
So, you know, when you take a look at our reserves that we're projecting, and obviously some of that's changed. This list might be a little bit different, if our budget was different. So, you know, with that being said, you know, these cuts are hard, they're difficult, but, I personally believe if you're going to make cuts, that you begin immediately so you don't, further exacerbate the problem. Now, I'm not sure how deep we should go, but I certainly think that, some of these are warranted, some we have to think about, and if we pass Proposition Y, then we've got a different decision. And, you know, none of these are easy. Obviously, they're in priority order. Nobody wants to make cuts at this, on this dais, but, you know, I can tell you firsthand, if you take one bite out of the apple, it's gonna be a huge shock to our system. If you take 2 bites out of the apple, then you begin to, to adjust your program, and I'm hopeful it'll pass. For those out there that view this, I hope it passes, because these cuts are dramatic and will affect our program. So, I think these are things just to think about, and you've given us something to think about. I don't think any decisions have to be made tonight. But I guess let's move on to 16, 17, unless anybody has any more comments about this list here. Now, I guess my next question is, to the board, is if the tax increase does not pass, should we put an additional meeting into August, prior to setting the tax rate? To have a discussion about 15, 16. What's that? What is our schedule for a board meeting, for August?
It would be August 6th would be the first Thursday of the month.
Okay.
We have that as a whole right now.
So we have that as a whole meeting?
Whole meeting, yes.
Okay. Alright, so that's when we'll have the discussion about these cuts here. I guess,
So Mr. Potter, I just wanna make sure we understand, so the election will be on the 4th. If it doesn't pass, then we would have a meeting on the 6th, then begin the discussion about this, because we will not have, had a chance to go back and work with our employees through that list at the time. I guess we can talk bigger numbers and then go back and refine the list before we have to do something.
I guess what would be real helpful is if we could get, more refined list with, totals next to it, so we know exactly what that represented, so we can get to a number that we feel, that the board feels comfortable with, if any. You know what I'm saying? I mean, these numbers represent totals. If you could tell us each line, what each line represents, and bring that down, so that we have an idea of what that costs.
Right, and we can do that, but on the table that we just went through on the 15, 16, just to remember, I understand, when we get to the end of tier 1 at 2%, that's $3.6 million. And then the next 23 FTE brings that to $5.4 million. So you have a little bit of a ballpark number now, not line by line. You can see by tier that we have 3.6 million, 5.4 million, and then 7.2 million for the first, for 15-16. Does that make sense? Okay.
Right. So we would have to, if we were to go all the way to the bottom, we'd have to do a reduction in force.
Yes.
Okay. That would, we have to suspend board policy to do that.
Yes.
Okay. Well, hopefully we don't have to do that. This is not an easy discussion. I did want to open this all week. Okay. Do we want to go ahead and start discussing the next tier, or?
I would like for, if you're ready, I'd just like for Mr. Supple to explain how that's put together so that people understand how the, going forward, takes into account the 15-16, so that we're all on the same page about that.
Okay. So in taking a look at the board's charge to arrive at what would be a balanced budget for 16-17, assuming no new revenue, we took a look at the last set of financial projections that the board saw. And so we know that we have the preliminary budget for 15-16, and then we have a projection for 16-17. Of course, we haven't done that budget yet, but it assumes essentially that there's a status quo in place, that we haven't done anything to significantly increase expenses in that projection, so there are no salary increases included in there. But there was some marginal growth in areas, a small amount of growth in purchase services and supplies, just recognizing that even buying the same things one year to the next would be a small increase in the cost of those goods and services. So, taking that as the basis, as we go through 16-17 cuts, tiers 1, 2, and 3, you'll see some of the same items mentioned, but that's because it's in 15-16, and so we can cut it there, but it was also in 16-17, if you will, so you can list it again as part of the cuts that you're doing, because you're really cutting it in both years.
Okay.
In order to arrive at that balance. And so then it's a little more straightforward here. The yellow items are all tier 1, the orangish colors are all tier 2, and the pink are all tier 3. So some of the things that are different as we go through PAT program. A number of years ago, the state cut back its level of funding for PAT. We determined we had an excellent program and wanted to provide some of the supports that the state would not pay for, and so we've been providing some operating funds to help with our PAT program because we think it builds a great foundation for our kids. That would be something that we would not do. Department chair teachers currently have release hours to work on their department chair duties. We would reduce those hours. And we currently provide reimbursement for classroom materials to our teachers. That would be something that we would not do. As we move into the next tier, you can see that there's some support personnel reductions. That's additional to what we've talked about previously. Reduction of central office administration. Consideration of moving to a 4-day work week. We would not expand our PLTW program. The transportation would be in effect for the full year. The 15-16 was assumed just the second semester. Certain of our staff have extra days on their contract, like counselors have days before and after the school year to deal with things, and that we would eliminate all extra days. And then we would consider some changes in our activities. We gave an example there, 9th grade sports, although again, this is not written in stone. We would need to think about changing our extracurricular program in some way. As we move down into the pink, items that are different, the board health insurance subsidies, so whatever amount was necessary to increase our premiums for the 17 year, that would all be borne by the employees. There would be no increase in the board's contribution. So whatever level we're currently at, that's the level at which we would remain. That would require a suspension of board policy to do that. Most likely. I mean, we haven't calculated those premiums yet, but I could anticipate that it would require a suspension of board policy. There would be some building administration personnel reductions, instructional support positions, so there's some individuals who are certified that they provide instructional support to our kids. Lewis and Clark, our participation in the vocational school, we supplement our Perkins money with operating funds to provide additional slots, and so we would not be doing that for 16-17. The certified personnel reductions of 46 FTE, those are the same for 23-23 that we looked at in tiers 2 and 3 the previous year. And then the support personnel reductions of 15 FTE are some additional support personnel that we have identified beyond what was included in the 15-16 reductions. And again, here it was prioritization was a little bit different. We weren't shooting for particularly 2, 3, 4%. We were shooting to how do we get to that essentially $15 million projected deficit. So that first tier, what's in the yellow, that's just not only accounts for about $1 million. And then as we move down, you can see that tier 2 is another 6.6 million, and then tier 3 would be another 7.4 million. The sum of those is $15.1 million.
What I want to add, as we've had conversations about this around the district, is we've used the number 100 and we use the number 200 with the number of staff that might possibly be reduced. And the number 100 is a lower number because we had some big ticket items in there, like reducing transportation and a 4-day work week, which are going to be revolutionary. And there may not be things that we do, but trying to diminish the impact on school every day. Those were things that are in there. I realize they're kind of crazy things or big things, big change for the school district. But if we did those big items, we would not have to reduce as many teachers. And if we make the decision not to do those big ticket items, if you will, that then translates into many more staff having to be reduced. So I just wanted people to understand that you may hear these two different numbers being talked about in there. They're both right, just depends on where we land as far as what the reductions might be. Also, just want to make sure as we have people who may not have been around and lived part of this, that when we talk about reducing a high school by 3 teachers, let's say, we are talking about an average teacher, 120 students on his or her caseload times 3 teachers, that's 360 kids who will probably have to have a schedule rebuilt. And you know what that's like when you rebuild anybody's schedule after they've kind of gotten their head into that game. So I just want you to understand that that will happen at every one of our schools. That kind of a feeling will happen and that kind of pushback is going to happen if we begin to make those reductions. They can certainly be made, but we have to anticipate the struggles that are going to come with that. And ditto, the reduction of transportation by 3.5 miles and 70. And I think the example that Mr. Supple has used has been Posley currently transports about 400 students via bus. And if we reduce it to greater than 3.5 miles or greater, only 4 students would be eligible to ride the bus. So you can imagine how disruptive this will be for families. And we put that in place for second semester so that if we did do that reduction, we would be able to give families time to find child care. So that would be almost half of our families having not child care, but transportation to school. So again, just want to make sure that we when we have this discussion, we have this more deeply as we make a decision about this. But it is certainly going to rock the world of the Francis South School District, and we just need to be prepared for what will happen.
I would also share with the board that as we look at 2016-17, the line item, the second one down in the orange section, central office administration reductions, that is essentially 4 FTE. And as we move further down into the building administration personnel reductions, that is 8.5 FTE.
Any comments, board? Ms. McElwain?
Okay, so the magic number, really, I mean, because it says tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 for this coming year.
Yes.
So is the magic number 7.2? That's really what we need to do. But we can choose like, well, too bad we don't care what the budget says, and we'll just do.
We can choose to say, we're not going to, we have balances of greater or better than we thought they were gonna be, we're gonna take a bite out of the apple, we're not gonna take as big a bite out of the apple. We can make that decision, we can make that decision.
So
We just need to do double next year.
the 2, 3, and 4% were targets developed in our discussions at the retreat. I don't think they're necessarily tied. I think it was a way to begin the conversation. I'll say that. And would certainly have to be evaluated, as Dr. Sloan said, in the context of how we actually ended fiscal year 15, what we project might happen with fiscal year 16, so that we would do as much as we needed, but not more than. And then, yes, to some extent, it will be a similar scenario playing out for 16, 17, that as we improve if there would be financial betterment to the bottom line, that makes a new starting number for the year, which could impact what might need to happen as we go into 16, 17. But we just, in order to have a common set of discussion, the basis for discussion, we took the financial information that we shared with the board most recently, and that was we worked from that information.
Ms. Weiss?
I'm sorry if I missed this, if you said this, but like you said, this is just a conversation, but this is a public meeting, and now this list is out there. What information or what conversations have taken place with the stakeholders on these that would be affected by these lists?
I've had an opportunity to speak to each of the levels, as Dr. Hendricks-Harris has been meeting with them in her mini retreats. And so we've had an opportunity to share this information with our elementary, middle, and high school principals, all of them. And I think that the information, once posted to board docs, was also shared among staff. I think that people are concerned that these cuts that are being considered here are going to have some pretty significant negative impacts on our instructional program. And so I think they understand what the purpose of tonight's discussion is, but they're also fearful of implementing any of these reductions for fear of what it will do to our instructional program.
And so to be clear, for example, PAT, those educators are already aware.
We have not had specific conversations with any individuals at all. And that's one of the reasons we tried to be as vague as we could about who these people are, because we don't want to unnecessarily disrupt people and cause people to have worry until we have to make that decision. So no, we have not had conversations about this with personnel at all.
Well, I just want to reiterate what I said in another session, that was evidence from formal conversation today. When you live under that kind of stress, it does affect your productivity. It's going to affect children, and so on and so forth. So, which is going to all then affect the efficiency it's not a pleasant scenario. I mean, I got a little bit distracted because I was sitting there, I kept staring at the PAT, which is near and dear to my heart. And I'm sitting there thinking and imagining, what is a district without that? So, thank you.
Mr. Plott,
Yes.
the other kind of piece that we wanted to talk about tonight was a request also made at the retreat, that we consider or provide some information to the board on what a certain percentage reduction across the board in salaries for all of our staff people would mean relative to foregoing some of these cuts. And so the number that was discussed for our conversation purposes was a 10% reduction in salaries for all of our staff. And based on what's budgeted for 2015-16, and just applying that across the board, that would be $11.6 million.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but you'd have to get every single employee in the district to agree to that.
The statute.
Teachers.
Because we have, for those individuals with whom we have contracts, that is there's a property right vested in that contract document. And so the statute provides for, particularly as it relates to teacher contracts, that the contract may be reduced, but only with mutual agreement of the parties.
Right. So,
I'm not sure that for our teaching staff, the board could make a unilateral decision to reduce their contracted rate. It may be true for other contracted individuals, like myself, where the board could do that. But again, I think there are some, because there's a property right attached with a contract, it gets to be more complicated. Of course, our non-contracted personnel, that is an action that the board can take, but there would be a disproportionality in that, the lower compensated individuals would be the ones who would be impacted, whereas the other side of the house would not be potentially.
and you certainly, I know that reduction of staff is hard and difficult, but, if you're sitting in front of the classroom and you're making 10% less money than you made the year before, and you know that that's going to be, in place for a little while, would make you not be as productive. I can't imagine a 10% pay cut. I'm certain it's happened out there in the private industry. But the bottom line is, if you don't get every single teacher to agree to that, then you'd be sued by those that didn't agree to it because it's statute. And I don't want to get into a big lawsuit, class action lawsuit that teachers do file based on state statute. We're not here to break the law. So, the bottom line is we need this stuff. And if anybody out there in this community does not believe that this is needed jobs, supplies, supports for a school district, they're wrong. So pass Prop Y, and we don't have to worry about this. Ms. McElroy.
So we talked about doing a meeting on the 6th, but is that not good because you're not going to talk to people, so do we need to do it? We consider it the 11th because the 11th is the first day of school.
Right.
If we wait till the 13th, which is another Thursday, kids are in class, so.
I guess, I'm just thinking out loud here as well, but if it doesn't pass on the 4th, we met on the 6th, if we could talk about numbers, like we want to reduce it by this amount, I think we could then work from that number and begin to work with our employees on what that might look like. I would want to regroup and take this as the framework for which to start and make some decisions, but I would hate to make any decisions on August the 6th that we're going to cut 25 teachers or whatever it might be, I would hate to do that, and we need to be more thoughtful.
Well, I mean, I think it's twofold, though. I think, you know, I mean, there's some board members that would wanna cut transportation, there's some that wouldn't. There's some board members that would want textbooks to be bought, and some that wouldn't. I don't know that we can just say cut and dry here, go ahead and make that happen unless we understand what the priority of the board is. And, you know, I don't wanna get into a decision-making process up here about what's best, but I certainly do, you know, I'll voice this publicly, I certainly don't wanna cut busing for our students and create havoc in the community with kids, I really don't. I mean, that impacts 7,600 kids. So, I mean, I think we have to, as a board, sit down on August 6th and prioritize this list the best we can as a group of 7 and agree on it. And then give the administration the directive to go back and make them decisions. You know, I don't think that we should just assume that everybody would want these cuts. And I'm just speaking as one board member. I'm sure there's others that will, you know, see items on there that they don't feel are relevant. So, textbooks in classrooms are important, but it's kind of up there. And I don't know if it's going to how it impacts the school year, but and maybe we don't make any of these cuts this year. Maybe we just move on and accept the deficit and start taking the big bite out of the apple next year, or, you know, if it doesn't pass, try again. But I don't know that we can just give a number, because everyone's got a different idea of how they think things should go.
I think if we could, you know,
A work session to agree on it?
yeah, if we could just maybe designate that, as a work session, just for this item and not.
I don't know that we can do a work session, because I think we have to make some decisions. Because then we have to do a suspension policy. So it probably have to be a full board meeting. Correct?
Well, yes, I think that we just don't want to get going down the road that we, too quickly. I want us to be thoughtful about this, and if we can agree on a number, it's gotta be $5 million we wanna cut. We don't want transportation in there. If we can make that, if we can get to that kind of a generalization, we don't want transportation in there. We don't want any more than 30 staff or whatever, you know, some numbers, and we can go back and have some conversations with our staff about that. And I think we can achieve that in a work session. But maybe we should put it under, maybe we should just have a regular meeting, and then if we need to take some action, we can take some action.
Can I make a recommendation? I'd like to have a work session on the 6th and a good conversation, because I think it's gonna take a lot to talk through, and it's gonna take time to figure out what our actual steps are. With our next meeting on the 20th then, which is 2 weeks later, be able to vote on a couple of things, if not everything. But the 6th to give direction, and then the 20th to vote.
Well, the problem is that in between there, we have to set the tax rate, so.
No, we don't, the 20th, we have a work session on the tax rate.
Okay.
We don't actually do it, I think, till September.
September.
So, this is gonna be fast.
What are the thoughts on that?
Schools are starting. I would just rather get this done before school starts. If we're gonna make any cuts, then why wait for school to start? It makes no sense.
So you're thinking that on August the 6th, we're going to.
I'm thinking we're gonna pass Proposition Y, we're gonna have a big party.
I like that.
Being proactive, just, yes.
But August the 6th, we're gonna cut staff before school starts? I know that everybody understands busing, I know that everybody understands what that feels like, but I am telling you, these schools are going to be in chaos. I just want, you know, we will do what the board wants us to do, we're gonna make some thoughtful recommendations, but I want to tell you, while it sounds like, oh, 2 teachers will go away, it's not gonna be that big of a deal, it's going to be a huge deal. when my child doesn't get AP Physics and I don't get to have band, and I thought I was gonna have a newspaper, and and that's going to be for up to probably 350 kids, if not more. Well, their whole families are gonna be in disarray, so transportation is a big deal, and the loss of 2 or 3 teachers is going to be a big deal. So I just want us to be, if we're gonna decide on August the 6th that the kids are coming next week and we're gonna pull 20 teachers out of the building, it's gonna be rough.
Well, I guess my question is to the board is this. Where's my agenda? I'm lost. Right here. We only have superintendent comments left, and then we're gonna talk about upcoming meetings. Now, I know there's a lot here, but can we have some discussion on items that, as a board, that we just can't accept, and give our recommendations tonight, so that they can put the list together and present it to us on August 6th, because, it is on the agenda, this is on the agenda.
Correct, but we were talking about another meeting.
We're talking about budget reductions and considerations. And
They haven't got, they have
Ms.
not gotten,
McElroy?
yes, they have not gotten to talk with staff, have any extra conversations. This is all preliminary. I think if we can give them a number and some things like, well, maybe not, or maybe I don't like this, well, I don't like this, well, all 7 of us have something that we don't like. They're not gonna say, okay, we'll keep all 7 of those things. I mean, they're not, I hope you're not going to do that. I don't know, I think we need to have a large discussion. If Prop Y does fail, it's just better discussion. I don't wanna have to worry about all of this and have you guys have discussions with people before it is yes or no, if it passes or not, and have people all anxiety. We just don't need to do that. I just really would rather not do that. I think that's, and I think it can work, that if we talk about it the 6th, make some decisions that this is what we would like to have as our, motions for the 20th, or something to that effect, or give you a parameters to go by, that is in the best interest, because it will just be chaotic if we decide something on the 6th before people have gotten to wrap their head around the whole thing. I just think it's in the best interest.
I think I agree with you. I think there's some obvious things that we can't do immediately. I mean, there's no way you can tell 7,600 students 3 days before school starts that you're not gonna transport.
That's for
Second semester.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There are some things that, up through the TAN, up before the transportation, up through the TAN, excluding transportation, through the curriculum, there are no people involved there. So that's a chunk of money right there, maybe $1 million-ish, I don't know, I'm just ballparking at $1 million. So there are some, not touching people yet.
Okay, so right now, we're looking at, with our current budget, we're looking at about a $10 million deficit in the upcoming school year, is that correct?
Yeah.
Give or take, 10, the supple factor. How much is the board comfortable with deficit spending this upcoming school year? I'll just pose it that way. Is
without touching people. And if we're going to exclude transportation, if we're going to exclude transportation, we won't be able to get 3.5 million without touching people.
A pretty significant number of people, like all the people on the list, nearly all the people on the list.
If we take when we back the transportation out.
Well, I should restate that, probably at least up to tier 2, we would have to do if we weren't doing transportation. All the other things, I think I'm about right in that.
Right, I thought tier 1 was 3.6 million, which was up to transportation, is that what you said?
No,
No.
it goes through certified personnel 6 FT, that's the end of tier 1.
So it's support personnel and 6 FTTs, are these classroom teachers? The 6 FTTs, right?
To be determined.
Okay. And then the support personnel are pairs, I assume?
From, not necessarily, from any support staff, so we could be talking about custodian, maintenance, from secretarial staff.
So that's tier 1 and does not include transportation. Yeah, this is just a list on the fly and we haven't really.
Oh, it's not just.
Well, I
mean,
know it's not a list on the fly, but you could, if you had a number, you might think of something else.
Yes.
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 So would the board be comfortable with the administration bringing back an additional 3.5 million cuts for that coming school year and trying at least affect the classroom?
And exclude transportation.
I hate that transportation. You're okay with it? Yeah, but.
How about if we bring you a list that has it in and has it out? How about if we bring you a list that has transportation in, we bring a $3 million list that has transportation out?
So, does that still, would that keep us above the 15% number if we did 3.5 million next year? It would almost put us at 17 if I do the math right in my head.
I think you're pretty close on that. That would be the other piece that I would want to make sure that we share with the board tonight is that knowing the importance of having a plan that can be implemented that would address the funding shortfall in a significant way, but also a thoughtful way. I understand that. But we also want to be careful not to make decisions quickly that have longer term impacts than we were able to anticipate because we were working with that good numbers in front of us. And so I think it's not just the sum of what the cost of these are. I think it needs to be considered in the context of where did we start? Are there things, again, the budget development process begins in December when, by the time we get to the end of the fiscal year, we're taking a look at decisions that were made some 18 months in advance. And so I would like to have a chance to work with the executive cabinet to take a look again. I know we can't wait until November when we do the revised budget, but when we get August assessed valuation numbers, maybe it's going to be better than what we had in April when we began to develop the budget because that is a constantly moving target as well. And what happens at the Board of Equalization has an impact on that. So we'll have our actual tax rate number. I think we're pretty aggressive on things like sales tax and basic state aid and so forth. But maybe there are other things that we need to look at differently that can allow us to reach if the target, for example, was to try to maintain at least a minimum 15% fund balance, then I think there are different ways to approach that project other than just reducing our expenditures. So I'd like to have at least some chance to explore that option. And there is an opportunity, at least for some of this, to delay some of the things can be done right away, like the learning management system, that's money that we don't have to spend, I get that. But there might be some other things, we put activities on 16-17, but there would be an opportunity to take a look at our activities for second semester. It gives parents and families an opportunity to plan ahead, and that might allow us to preserve the classroom and still have some reduction in expense. So I just think there are ideas that we need to spend more time researching before we commit to a particular list.
Yeah, well, now that, of course, after this meeting, this is gonna get out, and it will impact teachers, because they're gonna see it, and they're gonna go, oh my gosh. But isn't there a way to get teachers, and I know they all can buy into all this, but maybe there's a magic bullet out there that we're wrapped around so many figures in that maybe there is something building by building level that says, if we do this and this, that would help this bottom line. And I think that needs to be going on, because that gives them input, that they're stakeholders in this decision.
And that is what we will do, given the time to do it. And that's what we always do when we have to do reductions, we get their input, because they sometimes do have ideas and obviously doing the work every day. So we would like, that's what we were saying earlier on, is that we would like to be able to get some input from other people than just the 5 of us in a room trying to figure it out, when we're not the ones on the ground every day doing the work. So, point taken.
Well, we certainly don't want to do any of these reductions, but I certainly don't want to sit here and continue to deficit spend till we're in the hole. And, I don't think we're heading there. But looking at this list, obviously there's some things on here that don't affect the classroom. It might affect the culture, like drug testing and whatnot, but I think maybe give it careful consideration and bring back a list to us that maybe does not impact FTEs this year, and work throughout the year with the schools to continue to reduce their budgets to the point where we can maybe come in a little bit better than the $10 million deficit next year. And Kevin's been able to swing the budget a few times by saying no at times when they request something. I guess we'll just leave it up to the administration. If the board does not want to have a discussion about this any further until after the vote, I'm okay with that as well. I was only making the suggestion because if school's going to start, you're going to make some reductions to staff, and they're going to impact this year. You don't want to wait till after the school year starts and be scrambling. But based on where we're at, if we can come back with something that shows us we have a 15% fund balance maintaining for this year, and it's minimal cuts throughout the year, then we address the problem when we have it. I hate to talk about a problem that we may not have.
I think, speaking from my seat, hopefully I would represent some of what our principals might be thinking as well, is that they have a great deal on their plate right now. They are gearing up for the start of school, and those of you who have done that work understand what's involved in that. And a successful start to the school year sets the tone and helps make it, it really makes things work more smoothly. I would hate to ask our principals to take time out of preparing for the beginning of the school year to have these conversations, because whether we make a decision on early in August or sometime later, there's going to be a lot of disruption, potentially. And I think that if we could get the school year off to a good start, see what happens on August the 4th, then to engage, if necessary, in those conversations, I think we might end up being more successful on all fronts because there'll be more, the beginning of school won't be impacted as negatively, and the thought process around what we want to do will be more thoughtful, more deliberate. My thoughts.
If we are going to, I'm gonna disagree with Mr. Sutton here, if we are going to bring back if we're going to bring back, a $3 million, maybe I'm gonna make sure I understand, if we're gonna bring back a $3 million reduction on August the 6th, I would, with no transportation or with transportation, are we in agreement about that? $3 million? $3 million reduction, or do you want us to be at 15% balances? Whatever that seems to be.
Any comments?
I just wanna know what we're working toward, because if we're gonna bring stuff that's going to affect the buildings, I do want them, they can choose not to come participate, but I would certainly want to invite them into the conversation to participate, because they're going to certainly weigh in on it after, if a decision, is made. So, if the goal is for us to be at 15% balances, we could work toward that and try to work toward that number without it being a finite 3 million or 2 million or 2.5 or whatever it might be. We can work toward that.
So 15% balances would mean, somewhere in the neighborhood of 2.8. I'm just thinking out loud. I may be wrong. I run some numbers in my head. But it may be less than that. And is it more or less?
I think it would be realistic for us to work towards a minimum 15% fund balances as our target.
Okay.
And as I said, I think that when you take into account our starting number and then reevaluate, were any of the assumptions that we made in developing the budget that was approved in June, can those be revisited? Is there anything that might impact it there? And then see where we end up. We may find that it may be less than the amount of actual reduction, particularly as it relates to personnel, that we need to do.
Well, if we do it that way, that keeps us within board policy, 15 to 20%. So that makes sense to me.
Ms. Hope?
Yep, so I would like to see that we stay within board policy, and I'd like to see a phased approach with minimal impact to students and teachers in this current semester coming up. Eliminate, a phased approach, what we can eliminate right away, what makes sense to do at semester time, what makes sense to do for the following year. So I don't think it's a long, or, I'd like to see a phased approach.
Well, keep in mind the following year is going to be for sure 8 to 10 million cuts to balance the budget. This year we're considering this about, what it sounds like to me is 7 or 8 million dollar deficit. And next year will be, to bring it back into tune, we have to cut $8 million because you can't continue to reset. So next year would be the big cut year, if that was the case.
And if the tax levy passes on August the 4th, there will be no meeting on the 6th.
Absolutely not. And I think it will. I think we've got a very supportive community. So, when you have town hall meetings and you get very, very little participation, and you tell them you're going to raise taxes, that tells me that they support our school district. I'm happy about that. Superintendent comments? I'm assuming that was a work session.
A couple of comments, First High School's named school athletic programs didn't win, but they were finalists, so hats off to that, community. Francis Howell Central and Francis Howell High School were named by Misha as a leadership school. Again, this is Francis Howell Central's fifth year to earn that award, and I think that is a testament to, leadership in that, activity program. Scott does a great job there. As everybody knows, Francis Howell was named as a top workplace for the third consecutive year, and they had more large workplaces in the pool this year, and we still are within the top 10. Mary's team is just working on our AP numbers, but I think this is, our advanced placement, score. We're just starting to get some of that in. I think Brian's finalizing that right now, but I think it's important to note that in 2010, so 5 years ago, we had 74 AP scholars, and today we multiplied that by 3.5 times. We have 245 kids who have now achieved that status. So just remarkable, very targeted work being done, giving kids opportunities that maybe they otherwise would not have had. So those are my comments. Sorry.
Not knocking Howell, but I'm not sure how they got that honor when Francisville Central won 5 conference titles. They had 4 state title appearances and 1 state